The other day, I was watching the second season of Squid Game when I noticed something interesting. In the first episode, we get to follow the character known as the Salesman, and we learn he's more than a seemingly polite frontman for a shadowy, murderous organization. He's also an opera fan, and not just any opera fan, he's a Popera fan. As the episode progresses, we see the well-dressed, composed salesman begin to crack and reveal his true nature as a brutal psychopath. He goes beyond his normal routine of playing children's games with recruits in the subway. He offers homeless people a choice of red bean buns or a lottery ticket, and then destroys the buns in a fit of rage. He attacks two men who are following him and holds them hostage. Later, as he prepares to torture and kill the men, he does something that's become a classic move for psychopaths in film. He puts on an opera record, but not just any opera record. He plays Nessun Dorma, which, thanks to Pavarotti, became widely popular in the 20th century. Nessun Dorma is an aria about defeating your enemies, which is exactly what the salesman proceeds to do. Later, we see him playing Time to Say Goodbye by Andrea Bocelli and Sarah Brightman. The song choices are pretty on the nose, and the director is clearly signaling to the audience what's about to happen. Spoiler alert, it doesn't end well for the salesman. But what really intrigued me about the use of opera and popera here is that both genres are often shorthand in media for elegance and refinement. The director is signaling to us that the salesman is educated and cultured, right before he kills people in cold blood. This draws on a long-standing film trope of portraying mentally disturbed, often murderous types as refined, almost gentlemanly. It's a clever way for the director to remind us that appearances can be deceiving. The salesman may be well-dressed, polite, and a patron of the arts, but deep down, he's a monster. What does it say about how opera and its progeny popera are viewed by society at large when so many well-dressed, generally polite, murderous psychopaths are listening to these genres in film? The answer? Well, it's viewed as elitist. Something that only boring, rich people do because they think they're supposed to. This is actually a misconception that many people have about the genre. Yes, opera was historically often written for wealthy patrons who could pay composers' bills, but much of the opera we still listen to today was also written for regular people. In fact, opera has a long history of being accessible for the lower and middle classes. In the 18th and 19th centuries, many composers wrote operas specifically for the general public. These works were often performed in public theaters, which were much more accessible than the private courts and aristocratic salons where highbrow opera was traditionally heard. Composers like Rossini, Verdi, and Mozart often incorporated popular music styles into their operas. And their operas were designed to be entertaining and relatable, with plots that dealt with love, betrayal, and social issues, themes that resonated with everyday people. Even today, many contemporary operas continue this tradition of being written for the common people. Modern composers are writing operas that are filled with emotional storytelling and relevant social issues. An American Dream by Jack Perla explores the trauma and injustice of the Japanese-American internment during World War II. Breaking the Waves by Missy Mazzoli dives into themes of love, sacrifice, and religion, with its plot about an oil rig worker who is severely injured in an accident. Performances are also made more accessible to wider audiences today through the use of English supertitles, sign language interpreters, cheaper ticket prices, and online streaming broadcasts. Many opera companies and composers are also working to be more inclusive for all genders of performers. Operas like Good Country and The Plague Bearer were written for trans and non-binary performers. So no, You don't have to be a gentlemanly serial killer or a boring billionaire to enjoy opera. You don't have to dress up if you don't want to. You don't have to speak Italian or be a classical music expert. You just have to be there and enjoy the music.